friends, my name is Antoinette Chanel and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I want to provide a much needed update on what's happening with Sentebale and Dr. Shanduka. So admittedly, I was sort of keeping quiet as I was waiting for another update to come out because, you know, Dr. Shanduka came out swinging back in March when she appeared on, oh God, here we go. Network names. She was on a news program in March on a Sunday, and that was where she had made the accusations that Prince Harry had harassed her, that he had discriminated against her, that he and Prince Ciso were trying to force her resignation by them resigning from the board, just all of that stuff. It's been pretty quiet considering how everything was heating up in March. I was expecting to hear more by now. So I had to do some digging to sort of figure out where do we land on this now. And what I found is that as of May 2025, Dr. Shanduka is still the chairwoman of the Sentebale charity. And what I found here is that she continues to lead Sentebale, focusing on restructuring the charity to enhance its mission of supporting children and young people affected by HIV/AIDS in Lesotho and Botswana. Then I wanted to know a little bit more about Sentebale's financial history, so I looked into what the last 3 years have looked like for Sentebale. Keep in mind, Dr. Shanduka didn't become chairwoman until 2023. So in 2021, their total income was £3.13 million. Total expenditure, £3.03 million. Their income sources came from donations and legacies, charitable activities, as well as investments, and the expenditures went to charitable activities, raising funds, and governance. This was in 2021. Then in 2022, their total income was £4.55 million. Total expenditure was £3.59 million. So they had more of a profit in that year. Income sources were through donations and legacies, charitable activities, investments, and then I see legacies listed here separately to the tune of £235,000. So I don't know if that was just like a donation from a longtime trustee or what that was. Maybe the charity was a beneficiary of someone who like wrote it into their will or something. If you know more about that, please feel free to fill me in the comment section. As far as what they spent their money on in 2022, charitable activities, raising funds, and governance were the main three once again. Then we get to 2023. This is when Sophie Shanduka becomes chairwoman. The total income was £3.41 million. Total expenditure, £3.78 million. Donations and legacies were part of the income, as well as charitable activities and investments. What's interesting is that the investments in 2022 totaled £8,000 from what I was able to find. But in 2023, the investments totaled £29,000. So that was quite an increase as far as the investments were concerned. I noticed that. The expenditures were charitable activities, raising funds, and governance. But one of the biggest criticisms that I see against Dr. Shanduka is that she mismanaged funds. She was spending way too much of Sentebale's money on things that didn't directly benefit Sentebale in the form of charitable giving. Sentebale's income peaked in 2022 largely due to increased donations and legacies, including a significant personal donation from Prince Harry. So wait, let me scroll back up again. Maybe that's what I was seeing then in 2022. Yeah, maybe this legacy that's here in £235,000, maybe that was what Harry donated. I'm not sure. However, in 2023, income decreased by approximately £1.14 million compared to the previous year. Then on top of this, their donations decreased and their expenditures increased. And so that looks bad on Dr. Shanduka because it looks like you're not raising much money and you're spending a ton of money. The drop in donations in 2023 as compared to fiscal year 2022 for Sentebale seems to suggest that there was a decline in donations and a decline in legacies. And some people have attributed this to Dr. Shanduka. As I was researching, I couldn't find enough to confirm that would be a correlation to make, that donations dropped because she became chairwoman. I wasn't able to find enough concrete evidence about that, but I did find evidence of the Board of Trustees not having the best relationship with Dr. Shanduka. I'll get to that in just a moment. Sentebale has acknowledged receiving donations from the Sussex squad, but the charity also has expressed gratitude, but not wanting to be tied to the Sussex squad, because the Sussex squad, though they can be a very powerful force, and I'm sure the Sentebale chair people and board are very grateful for such donations, but they also carry with them a negative connotation because of their actions on the internet. The Sussex squad is a group that, whether they like it or not, they've been involved in a lot of controversies, and Sentebale doesn't necessarily want to hitch itself to those controversies as it continues to operate. And I think it's the involvement of the Sussex squad through donations and things like that that sort of raised red flags for Dr. Shanduka and others on the board about whether or not the charity was being leveraged to create positive PR for Meghan and Harry. Let's talk about the criticisms that Dr. Shanduka has faced, because I haven't actually laid those out in detail yet, so let's get to them. So her leadership style is a #1 concern. Several former trustees, including Prince Harry and Prince Ciso, resigned from Sentebale, citing a breakdown in trust with Dr. Shanduka. Baroness Linda Chalker, a trustee for nearly 2 decades, described Shanduka's leadership as almost dictatorial. Reports indicate that tensions had been escalating since December 2024, with concerns over Shanduka's management approach and decision-making processes. One thing I do want to note, though, is that I did uncover that prior to becoming chairwoman of Sentebale, Dr. Shanduka was a trustee from, I think it said 2009 to 2015. So she did serve as a trustee for Sentebale, and her involvement with the charity didn't just begin in 2023. So presumably, I don't know how long, well, no, they just told us that this woman has been on the board for 2 decades. So that means that Linda Chalker and Shanduka, their paths would have crossed at some point because of Dr. Shanduka's involvement with the charity for so long. But the Baroness was one of the critics against Dr. Shanduka. Dr. Shanduka has also been criticized because of her financial management, and this sort of speaks to some of the numbers that I was talking about just a little bit ago. Under Shanduka's leadership, Sentebale reportedly spent over £427,000 on consultants between June 2023 and January 2025. Notably, £185,000 was paid to Lebeck, a strategy firm for event coordination and strategic support in the United States. I mean, I get that people would be upset about so much spending on consultants and outside professionals, but if the charity primarily operates on the continent of Africa, I could see why someone might want to have event coordinators here in the United States for events that are happening here in the United States. I don't know if sis just didn't shop around to get the best price or what the deal is, but I could see the need for hiring someone. This, along with the fact that the charity took in less in donations in 2023 than they did in 2022, looks bad on Dr. Shanduka. We know about the investigation that the Board of Trustees opened into Dr. Shanduka, but I don't know if people know that Dr. Shanduka is actually suing the Sentebale charity, or at least that's what we were told back in March, early April. I'm having a hard time finding updates on where that lawsuit stands, and if she's still heading up the charity, then, I mean, let me not act like I'm a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Maybe people who are affiliated with the legal profession can speak to this more, but it kind of seems like that would be a conflict if she's suing the very charity that she's still working for. So maybe the fact that she's still working for them right now means that she's dropping the lawsuit. I don't know. Maybe it's just against Prince Harry and Prince Ciso that she wants to bring the lawsuit. I also found a website called Feminegra that seems to be debunking a lot of the claims that Dr. Shanduka made in her interview that she did on the Sunday News, that big explosive one that she did on television. So it says that Dr. Shanduka's claim of Harry's move to the US causing a loss in major donors for the charity They are debunking this by saying that the data tells a different story. Instead of donations falling because of Harry's move from the UK to the United States, they're saying that the pandemic is the reason why charity and charitable giving fell. They are also suggesting that there were wider forces at work that drove this financial strain, that it wasn't just Prince Harry. There's also the allegation that Dr. Shanduka made that they were doing a charity event, but then Harry and Meghan decided to bring their celebrity friend, which was Serena Williams, I assume. They decided to show up with Serena Williams without telling anybody from Sentebale, and that this created a logistical nightmare, and that suddenly now the event that was supposed to be for charity no longer was for charity because now it's like becoming a celebrity event. That's what she said. What Femi Negra is saying is that Dr. Shanduka was really excited about the opportunity to have a celebrity come to this event, and then she sort of flipped the story by the time she was speaking on that news program, which it says here that that was Sky News. So when she gave that interview on Sky News, she was telling a different story than the one that she had told prior to the polo event, when I guess they were planning for it. She was excited for the celebrity glitz and glam. Femi Negra also starts in on the allegation that Harry's association with Sentebale made the perception of the charity toxic, and that led to the loss of donors. Femi Negra is arguing that there are people still publicly supporting Prince Harry's initiatives, so people weren't backing away from him, seeing him as toxic. They're still donating to him. They're still supporting him publicly. But then the example that they give is just the Invictus Games. They don't have other examples of people publicly supporting Prince Harry. The only real thing that they're supporting of Harry's publicly is Invictus. It's kind of hard not to do that. You know, I think Femi Negra is trying to make the claim that, you know, there are large brands that attach themselves to the Invictus Games, and Prince Harry is on the face of that, so why would they continue to associate with him if they felt that his brand was toxic? I would argue that they would keep associating with him because the Invictus Games is so non-toxic, and that's what they're trying to get the positive PR and the visibility from, being affiliated with something that helps to give wounded veterans an opportunity to still compete and still find meaning for themselves. I think that's what the brands are attaching themselves to, not necessarily to Harry. And I have to take the Invictus support with a bit of a grain of salt as well, because a lot of people are now calling for investigation into the Invictus Games. Now that this stuff has gone down with the Sentebale charity and we've seen what's happened with the Africa Parks, let's take a look at Invictus. Lastly, Femi Negra brings up the idea that Dr. Shanduka thinks that her efforts at trying to solicit more US donors were sabotaged by members of the charity. And this one's really unfortunate because it sounds like Dr. Shanduka didn't get what she was paying for. It sounds like the consultants were promising things that they didn't deliver on, and that's what the problem is. There was a lot of money spent on consultants and they didn't deliver the results that were necessary, and so that called into question, well, why are we spending all of this money? But Dr. Shanduka might have framed that as, well, they're sabotaging my efforts. Actually, let me not start in on her like that, because as a Black woman, I know what it's like when people decide that they want to turn you into the villain. So maybe it's that she perceived that her efforts were being sabotaged because no one was being upfront with her about their questioning of these consultants. It's unfortunate all around, but the bottom line is the money was spent and the results didn't come. When you are the chairperson of a charity, any sort of questioning in the public eye of whether or not you can be trusted, whether or not you are somebody who can be looked to reliably, those types of things are really, really bad. So public trust is your number one goal when you are heading up a charity, or you're trying to market a charity, you're working a charity, you have a nonprofit that you're trying to build. You need public trust. And unfortunately, Dr. Shanduka has lost a significant portion of the public's trust simply because she's been involved in this. Just by having her name attached to this, it becomes negative, whether she's done anything negative or not. And that's too bad, but unfortunately, that is the way that the game is played. My 2 cents are that I think it's very easy to villainize dark-skinned Black women. I see that happen here in the United States all the time, which is one of the reasons why I don't like to be the public face of anything that's not just my own. It feels safer when I just represent myself. When I try to represent other people or groups, feels like that's when I become a target. It becomes easy for people to make everything that's wrong my fault. I do believe her claims about the Sussexes wanting to turn Sentebale into another tool for their PR machine, and that's not right. I think that she was absolutely correct to put her foot down on that and to demand that she not be sort of ushered into whatever this PR fever dream is that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have dreamt up for themselves. But it's also very clear that some of the board have questions about her use of finances, her choice to spend money on things like consultants and outside people rather than pumping that money into what they surefire know will make them money and get them those donations. I think proceeding with silence is a good idea right now, so that's part of why we haven't heard much from Dr. Shanduka recently. And if I was her, I would keep it that way. I'd stay quiet until there's some sort of a ruling on that lawsuit, until something gets set in stone with the charity. I would just continue to move in silence and do the best job that I possibly can. So here's hoping that sis can sustain the good fight. All right, friends, those are all my thoughts on this topic. Please let me know in the comments section, what do you think about everything that's happening with Dr. Shanduka, Sentebale, Prince Harry, la 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 la. Check out the Feminegra website too. I'll try to put a link to that in my description so that you can see the stuff that I saw when I was doing research on this. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. That tells YouTube that, hey, this is good content over here. And if you want to see more from me, consider hitting the subscribe button so that you can be notified every time I upload to YouTube. If you want to keep up with me on Instagram, you can follow me at the handle that's on screen right there. Otherwise, friends, thank you so much for being here, and I will catch up with you in the next video. Take care.